Hello again, and welcome to another very exciting, extra exciting episode of You Gotta Hear This. Look at that. Good timing, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
This is our classiest episode yet.
It's a callback to our favorite, least favorite days where we would start off with a pop of the bubbly.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that is? Nice. All right.
Mike, you were on that podcast.
I remember that show. I remember that show.
Vaguely, right?
You're talking about Charlotte's most popular podcast
Mm-hmm.
for a while there.
For at least a week.
Yeah, maybe even two. Oh,
You guys had a pretty good drinking regimen combined with your podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember how I even edited any of them after.
My drinking team has a podcast problem.
Nice.
It was like really unsettling.
I'm really proud of that one. That joke there.
And we had some real bonkers guests on, like
Yeah.
I
John
don't wanna name
Nolan.
names. But yeah, there was some batshit crazy people we had on. In my house. I invited these people in my home.
Good
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Well, check that out. It's still out there, right? In podcast land.
I don't even know where it is anymore.
No, you can't get it. But that's why we're here with You Gotta Hear This.
Oh,
Charlotte's new most popular podcast.
Right.
For at least 3 weeks this time.
3 weeks, yeah.
3 weeks running.
I saw our last episode, man. Our last one was very successful. We
Yeah.
got a lot of listens on that one.
Awesome.
Brian,
Did everyone have a good St. Patty's Day?
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
good one. I had another pop-in from Greg. I was sleeping
Wow.
on my couch, and Greg just thought it would be fun to stop on in, and it was fun. We had a really good time.
And what did I bring with me?
Oh my gosh, we had a few. I don't know the name of the shot because I'd never done one before, but it was good. What's the thing?
I bought Nicole and I came over with Irish car bombs.
Yeah,
Nice.
Irish car bombs. Had a couple of those.
A fucking treat.
Yeah, so you got your whiskey, your Baileys, and your Guinness. Is that right?
Yeah. I brought it all over, set it up
Really
on his
good.
counter, and
Bombs
did him and
away.
left.
You
Did him
know,
and left.
one thing to remember is if you ever go to Ireland, don't call it that when you order it at the bar.
Oh, yeah.
They don't like
Yeah.
that.
Not cool.
Writing this down. Writing this
Yeah, take a
down.
note.
And
Taking notes.
check. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to Ireland a few years ago, and I don't know if you guys know this, if you guys have ever been. Coors Light is very popular in Ireland.
Yeah.
Coors Light.
Probably because the other option is Guinness.
Yeah, those are the only two beers.
Are you saying you don't like
Two
Guinness?
now.
I only like Guinness with a car bomb.
Hmm.
I can't sit there and enjoy a frothy, viscousy brown liquid. It's too much.
When you put it that way.
We did a thing. I did a
Really
thing a while
solid.
ago, and I know we have a podcast to get on with, but just real quick, when I was in California, I was drinking a lot of coffee, and I wanted to, so much so that I wanted to quit. I said, this is too much coffee. I got to quit. So then I remember reading somewhere that in Ireland, they drink Guinness in the morning as we drink coffee. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. So I went to Trader Joe's and I bought a 4-pack of Guinness. And the next morning I cracked it open. So I'm a morning person. So I woke up at 5 a.m., cracked open a Guinness, drank it. I was passed out by 5:20. That was it. I woke up at 11 and got on with the rest of my day. So I don't know if there was any merit to that story or any
You
substance.
tried it. It wasn't for you.
It wasn't for
Yeah.
me. No,
Not
no.
for everyone.
It wasn't for me.
How many did you have? I think that's the key.
No, I just had the one.
Four?
Just had the
Okay.
one. Yeah. That's a great question. That's a good qualifying question, but
Yeah.
just the one.
I
Okay.
have been drunk in the morning for like a holiday or just having friends that are just crazy enough. They're like, let's get really drunk early. And it's pretty great. It's pretty good.
It's not. I'm not here to judge.
It's not
If
terrible.
it-
We always had the plan when, like, John lived in Noda, that all the adults with families and children were going to get daytime babysitters, and we were just going to go out and get ripped. That all we had to do is, like, they would go home, their kids would be in bed, they'd go to bed, it'd be fine. But we never did that.
It never worked out.
Never.
Plus, I have a friend who said one of the funniest things. I'm not going to say who it was, but he said one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. He said, "You can't get a DUI if the sun's still out." And I to this day, I think that's the funniest and probably the truest thing I've ever heard. So
He's not wrong.
I'm not willing to test it out, but
That,
yeah, we're not advocating that.
I think I know probably what he was meaning, but obviously not true. But
Sure.
Definitely.
I guess there's less suspicion. You're not going to be as the cops aren't out there looking for drunk people at noon usually.
Right.
But if you're swerving around the road at noon, they're still going to get you.
Well, no, they'll just think you're really excited to get to Target.
Oh man, I could spend all day in there.
Yeah. And if you tell them that with booze on your breath, they'll say, "Go right ahead. It's noon. We don't arrest people for drunk driving at noon."
The sun's out.
And the funny thing was, when I left Mike's the other day, I had the bottle of Jameson in my center console cup holder. And I was driving down the road. I was like, I should probably move this.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. Not a good look.
But,
Not a great look.
yeah. Nicole was just like, it's fine. It's daytime. I'm like, see?
Yeah.
You get it. She gets it.
All right. Well, none of that really has anything to do with our podcast today, but I feel like it is a bit of a tradition for us to go on a bit of a tangent before we get into our actual topic.
Mm-hmm.
And today our topic is the music you listen to as a senior in high school. There's probably a better way to sum that up. Maybe I'll think of that later. But yeah, music from your senior year of high school. And
yeah, you can find in your CD booklet in your car.
What's that?
That you can find in your CD binder in your car.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes. With your, well, at least for me, with your Discman plugged into the tape deck that you know, that whatever that thing was called.
No, sir. I worked at Food Lion all summer to get that Pioneer put in there.
Oh, you had the
Yeah,
Pioneer?
with the subwoofer in the back. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. I was always jealous of your people.
Absolutely.
It was like a whole nother level of living that I could only aspire to and imagine.
So if you had the CD booklet, did you put the CD like insert behind the CD? Like the artwork? Or did you just pop the CD in there?
Mine was in front. No, I had the CD insert in front of the CD.
Okay.
CD insert behind.
If you put it behind, then it would scratch.
And mine did.
Yeah.
They all got scratched. It's terrible.
But if you had a wall sticker on it, you just bring it back and you get a brand new one.
Oh, yeah.
Full
Nice
circle.
Callback. Yeah. Did you see someone commented about their scam with the wall, which I did. Think probably a lot of people did.
That was probably the downturn to that actual business model.
Yeah. Because all you have to do is keep the sticker on the plastic container and then put a new, or put a messed up CD in it and bring it back and they would replace it. No questions asked.
And working at the wall, they didn't like safeguard those stickers. Like if I ever needed one, it was just there on a roll. It was just super easy. There was no like, oh, sign your name, take a sticker, we'll keep track. Nope. Nope.
Well, they probably figured, you know, we're selling CDs for $18 a piece. No, this business is gonna go on forever. We're gonna make millions. It doesn't matter if we lose a few here and there. They didn't anticipate Napster. That was the problem.
It's like that BMG company. Send us a penny. We'll send you 12 CDs. Just pay the shipping.
Man, yeah, that was a hell of a scam. But anyway, we digress. So I wanted to start out today because my senior year of music listening, there's kind of a lot for me to unpack. And the first thing is I graduated in 1996. So 95, 96 is my senior year. And it was kind of the end of the grunge era, which, as we've discussed on the show was a big part of my musical development. So I was in a really exploratory place at that point. Pearl Jam was still going solid for me. I believe they put out No Code that year, and I was still with them on that. I was way into it, still am. Soundgarden, they had put out Super Unknown in 1994, and I was, I think, maybe a little late to it, so that was a big one of my senior year. And a semi-interesting side note, I went to a Christian high school, and for my senior quote, I quoted Soundgarden's song, one of their songs on Super Unknown, and it was, "The words we say never seem to live up to the ones inside our heads. The lives we make never seem to get us anywhere but dead." That was my senior quote, and they wouldn't let me use it, and someone just like made one up for me.
John
instead.
3:16.
Oh, no.
Put in John 3:16. Wow, that's a good senior quote, though.
I thought so.
Why didn't you go with "To Hell with the Devil"? Was
I
that?
wasn't allowed to listen to Stryper. They were too edgy for the Christian music world.
Too much leather.
Yeah, too much leather, too much makeup. That was the big problem. They looked like ladies. Men aren't supposed
Ladies. Ugh.
So I'm coming out of that era of the end of grunge. There's this weird thing then where like bands like Bush were coming up, where they weren't really part of that, but they were sort of capitalizing on the grunge sound. That was the first time I was ever aware of like credibility and like the history of a band, because I heard the Bush stuff and I liked it. And then I remember talking to a friend in high school, and he was like, well, they don't even have any like indie credibility. They just like, they never did anything and then put out a record with a major label. And at the time I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, is an indie like something to do with like India, like an Indian record label? I really didn't know what he meant. And then I remember that because from then on I was like, okay, I have to like figure out what this is about, this like indie credibility thing. So I started researching that in my senior year of high school.
At the library. How did you? Because there was no internet.
I had to go to the library.
Going through that
My-
card catalog through the eye, like pull out that.
The microfiche.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got out a book on indie cred. So there was that going on. There was bands. I remember like Seven Mary 3 came out, and that was one where I remember being like, no, I just don't. That one was a little more noticeable to me, where like I feel like they're just sort of trying to sound like this thing that's been popular for the past few years. So I was kind of coming out of that, feeling my way out of the grunge world. My musical taste was starting to be all over the place. Like I discovered Primus, which I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Primus.
Yeah, I love Primus.
Yep. From my dad.
Very weird band that can border on unlistenable sometimes.
Yep.
I still have a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for them, but not something I would ever put on now voluntarily. But yeah, kind of getting all up. I was starting to discover some hip hop stuff. I remember like Das Effects had that They Want Effects song that I was really into, and had discovered the Beastie Boys a bit, and like Rage Against the Machine and Tool, and kind of all over the place. But then that leads me to the second part of my two-part series on is a friend of mine who I played music with. He was one of the first people I ever played music with. He was a drummer. He had introduced me to a lot of bands. He introduced me to Metallica, I think Soundgarden, a whole bunch of other things. So he one day like puts this album on for me, and he's like, you got to hear this. And he starts playing.
Hey, that's where it came from.
Hey.
Hey, yeah, that's right. And I'll never forget it, and that's why I named the podcast after. And so it was the band Phish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's this album. What's that?
No, I was just going to say 30 minutes later, after the first song was over, after the first guitar solo was over, you knew you found something that you were in love with.
Yeah. That's pretty close to accurate. Yeah. And so he plays with this album called Lawn Boy that they put out in
My
1990.
nickname in high school.
Is that right? And that particular album is Phish is kind of all over the place if you're not familiar with them. They will cover anything from sort of like classic rock to like jazz, funk, bluegrass, whatever. This one was a little more on the jazzy side of things for their albums. And I had no idea anything about Phish at this point. So this is probably in 95. So like now you say Phish and I think everyone has a picture in their head of what that means, oh, Phish, like hippies, jam band, Grateful Dead. I had none of that. I just heard this band and I'm like, this is insane. And I was really taken with it. And I kept listening to it. And in my senior year of high school, they became one of my favorite bands. And I started exploring their whole catalog. And it was weird because some of it was the music for sure. Some of it was that I was a guitar player and I had just gotten to the point where I could like kind of understand what they were doing as musicians and appreciate it. So just like that feeling made me feel good. I was like, oh, I kind of know what they're doing, like, and why this is good. But another part of it is that nobody knew what it was. Like nobody had heard of Phish and nobody listened to music that sounded like that. And that felt cool to me. It's like, it was kind of like a secret club. But then it becomes a little bit like a cult almost, where you get like sucked into this whole world and it's really weird. And it was like the biggest musical diversion of my whole life. Because for the next like 2 years after that, I was like super into them, went to see them in concert a bunch of times. And then it was just kind of over. There was this like 3-year period or so where I was just like obsessed with Phish and like super into the whole culture around it. And then I just moved on and never really went back, never even got into anything related to it. Like almost anything else I ever listened to, it like led me to other bands and down other roads. And I would like go back and listen to it and revisit it. Phish was just like 3 years and then just done. And
it's so interesting to me that you say that, because to me, excuse me, it's so interesting that you say that because that you say that Phish had such an influence on you. But to me, it seems like they have no influence on the music that you've put out since. That's very interesting to me. I don't hear any Phish in anything that you've ever done.
No, that's true. And
I hear it when he's vacuuming the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever I play the vacuum cleaner, which that is a thing they used to do.
Wait, really?
Oh, it's the funniest thing. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Wait, seriously?
Oh, the vacuum solo. Why?
The guy from Jackal used to do a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait, would they really do that though?
The drummer used to come out and do a thing where he would like cover a song and sing it. And then he'd bring out an old like Electrolux vacuum cleaner with like a big tube.
Stupid.
And he would like, they did a lot of dumb stuff.
Oh, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I love it. I love it so much.
But no, that was a serious question. Like if Phish was so influential on you in such a formative portion of your life, why did they not have seemingly any influence?
Part of the reason was, I think as a guitar player, I when I was into them, started kind of chasing after what they did and learned some of their songs. And at that time in my band in high school, I did start trying to incorporate their influence into it. But it just wasn't a good fit for me. Like, I'm not a good enough guitar player to play that type of stuff. Like, I also didn't have the drive to like keep getting better and better so that I could do an insane 5-minute jazz solo. You know, I just eventually I just was like, okay, this isn't for me. So it was sort of, I think, like I went down the road and then was like, yeah, this is not for me, I guess. And then just like walked back or down another road after that. And yeah, and then I think because of, there was a lot of other bands I was listening to as well. Like, it's not like they were my sole influence, but there was so much other stuff I discovered after that. I mean, like, that was, by the time that was ending, I was starting to discover like Modest Mouse and like the Get Up Kids and Promise Ring, and then like went into this whole other world, which was much more accessible too as a musician and a songwriter, and a little bit more like, oh, I could do stuff like this. And then, you know, like I immediately took to that as a songwriter and guitar player, whereas the Phish stuff, it just, I couldn't really wrap my head around it in a way that I could reproduce. So that was part of it. But one last thing that I'm going to say, because I don't want to go too long with this, but one crazy thing about that time period with the band Phish is they had a community and they had this whole system that was basically, I could only describe as an analog internet. It was like, you could go to these hippie music stores and buy bootleg tapes of their live concerts. People would trade the tapes that they had with each other at the shows. There was like fan-made like newsletters and like zines about the band, like all just pre-internet, but all the kind of stuff that you would just, you know, in like 5 years see on the internet, you know, fans talking about music, trading music, but they were doing it all in real life, which is kind of weird and funny to me to think about now. But I think that's part of what drew me to it, is it was this whole world that existed just outside of the normal world. You know, even at the hippie music store, there'd be a lot of people there to buy the music that everyone knew. But then in the back corner, you could sort through the Phish cassette tapes and see, oh, this is their live set from Halloween in '93. This is a legendary. And then if you talk to someone else who was into Phish, they would know exactly what that meant, you know, and it was its own secret world, which was very appealing.
It reminds me of collecting baseball cards or trading baseball cards.
Yeah, you
got books. That's what it feels like to me. So with this band at this time, you kind of had that that you didn't have with any other bands, which is cool.
I never experienced that with music. Probably only with comic books would probably be the closest thing at that point.
Yeah, there was like a lot of, there was ECW wrestling. They would always do like Elks Lodges and VFW halls all in the Northeast, but there would always be vendors there selling like bootleg copies of other shows.
Right.
And people would be like, oh, did you get that November 11th one from '97? And I'm like, oh, you got to find that one. And it would just be completely awful footage and just, but.
Right, but it was like rare and something that not many people had seen, but had talked about, kind of, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff of lore.
Why do you think Phish was a band that attracted that kind of community? I've never heard a single Phish song in my life, but I'm going to guess that it's because they're somewhat Grateful Dead-like.
Yeah.
A bit.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the truth or not.
They are Grateful Dead-like, but they were kind of, I think, built on the Grateful Dead thing and expanded it a lot. I think some of it is they had a lot of like, I guess almost like world building. Like, you know, when you talk about like science fiction or comic books or movies where they kind of build this whole world that you can get lost in, they had sort of done that with music, and that was part of it. They had these like bootleg things that they had recorded before they were a band, and like this thing that the singer guitar player had written that was like this Lord of the Rings style concept album that he did for his college thesis. And there was
you're
like
talking about the Juggler. Are you talking about the Juggler? Is that
the Juggalos?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother thing.
That's all other world building.
Oh, okay. That's not what you're talking about.
That's the Insane Clown Posse.
Oh, okay. Go on. Please continue.
This is just a whole thing of he had this like fantasy concept album that he had recorded, and it was like legendary. And every once in a while they'd play it at one of their shows, but very rarely. And they never released it properly. There's all these things like that you could find out about, but it was hard to like know all the details. So there was these legends that would get built up about it. And then like in their sets, they never played the same set twice in their entire career. And I think that was part of it too, is then it like someone could be like, well, I saw this set, and then like show you the line, be like, oh my God, that would be amazing to see that set. And you kind of keep chasing after them for that too, to see what they're going to do next, because every show would be completely different. So yeah, they built a whole thing around it. And then I think some of it is just tied into like the hippie community and like the hippie drug scene too. Like that was a whole thing. And like, I think luckily at that time in my life, I had never done any drugs and was listening to Phish dead sober, which is crazy. And thank God that I think if I had gotten into weed in high school, I may have been like lost in the Phish world for the rest of my life after that. It could have been bad.
Like Nemo.
Yeah. So
how many times have you seen them?
I would say I saw them probably 12 or 13 times, maybe a little more.
I've never seen a single human that many times, much less a band.
I saw them once. They were here. They played that big amphitheater up by the college, but it was hit or miss for me.
Looking at you, Dad. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not like already into them when you go see them play live, you're not going to get into it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not going to win you over.
Hey.
That's awesome, man. I had 2 or 3 friends in high school that were really, really into Phish, and I never knew where a good entry point was. It seemed very overwhelming to me.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like something that I couldn't just get into now.
Yeah, I don't think if someone was trying to get into Phish, I could probably point them in a direction, but it's at this point now we're talking like, so 95, 96 is so long ago, and they've still done so much since then. So it's this whole gigantic catalog of live albums and studio albums, and
Hey, Anastasio, whatever. He's done a bunch of solo stuff, right?
Yeah, a couple
There's a
solo
whole
things.
wormhole you could go down.
Yeah, there's all of them have side projects, and it's a whole world you can get lost in if you want.
Are they the band that did that crazy game of poker song? Is that Phish?
That's
Only
OAR.
Phish. Who is it?
OAR.
That's the name of the band?
Yeah, I think it
OAR?
stands for Of a Revolution.
Oh, okay. I always
One of
thought
our
that was-
listeners, Brendan from Long Island, he loves OAR.
Really?
He texts me about bashing them because I'm going to bash them because they're terrible. But they play the Paramount on Long Island like all the time, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going." I'm like, "Why?"
Just why?
Yeah, I've heard OAR a little bit, and I don't want to be too judgmental, but they remind me a little bit of like Phish, if Phish was not that good at playing their instruments.
I always labeled him as like a poor man's Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
So who am I to judge?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on from Phish.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go next just for chronological purposes, because I feel like my time frame is kind of the same as your time frame. And I don't really have a lot to contribute to this episode because music was pretty insignificant for me, my high school year, my senior year of high school, which is weird because when I was a sophomore, I graduated. I should say that I graduated 1 year before John. So it was 94, 95. So when I was a sophomore, I was 15 years old in 1992, 93, when Pearl Jam and Nirvana came out. And that's the best time for that kind of music to come out, because when you're 15, you're so angry. It was perfect. And I was furious 15-year-old. And I finally had music that was speaking to what I was saying, which I've kind of mentioned in previous episodes. Like Nirvana is not really saying anything, I don't think, which I think is great because they're so ambiguous that you can attach your own meaning to the words, because the lyrics clearly don't mean anything, but the world is telling you that this is for angry kids, and that's exactly what I was. And it was great, man. And me and my whole friends were wearing our flannel shirts around our waists. But then, and I think I started this, I'm going to ask you guys if you've ever seen this, but I was the first guy to turn it around. So I would wear a flannel shirt around my waist, Rowdy Roddy Piper style. So it would look like a kilt. So the sleeves would be in the back. But then my whole group of friends started doing that. Did you guys ever see that, or am I the only one?
I don't think so.
I never saw that.
Okay. So that was I
think there was a wrestler that might have done that. The Raven.
It was Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Raven.
Who?
Yeah, Joe knows Raven.
Yeah, Raven.
Oh, okay. I was ahead of my time. But so then me and my friend group were all wearing our flannel shirts around our waist, but backwards. So the back of the shirt was on the front. So that was pretty cool, man. And I was huge into music in 91, 92, 93. And that was when like Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out, and then 10 and Nevermind. But then and then you had Dr. Dre, The Chronic. Like we were really big into so many good albums came out from 91 to 93. But I feel like 94 and 95 was kind of a dead zone. It was for me. And there was nothing that I was really into. I'm just looking at my notes and I'm trying to find, and it was so fun researching this, because I was like flipping through my high school yearbook and trying to find some kind of cue that would remind me.
I think that part of like the first part of what I was saying is like, it was like that post grunge kind of thing where it was sort of like, all right, well, what's going to happen next? And no one was really sure, or at least in that for people our age, I think it felt a little bit like, so what's the new thing? Like, what are we into? Like, I don't know.
And there wasn't anything for that one period. Like you got the 1 year where you had some cool shit to get into, but I was in that 1 year where there was no cool shit to get into. And I was so excited about this topic because we were so close to talking about something that I really care about, but we didn't quite get there. Because in 1995, in the summer of 1995, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, we never had an alternative rock radio station. We had 99.7 The Fox, which played all the classic radio, all the classic music. And then we had 95.7, and then we had Kiss 95.1, which played the pop music. But in the summer of 1995, that was when we got 106.5, Charlotte's Rock Alternative. And that's when we started playing like Sponge, Everclear, Bush, Live, Hole, Portishead, Oasis, Weezer, Foo Fighters, Silverchair, Better Than Ezra, No Doubt, Seven Mary 3. And these are all bands that are so near and dear to my heart. And again, I don't think it's because they're great bands, but as I mentioned in the last episode, it was just because they came out in that time between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, which is the greatest year in anybody's life.
That was after your senior year?
That was the summer of my senior year. So at that point, I was out of high school. That was so late 1995. So I don't count that as my senior year of high school. But from early 94 to early 95, we didn't really have a lot going on. I just wrote down what I was listening to, and I'm just going to read. Oh, I will say that the biggest album that came out that year was Nirvana Unplugged, and everybody was going absolutely batshit crazy over that album, as they should, because it was phenomenal. And I don't know how many younger people we have listening to this podcast, but if you missed Nirvana Unplugged, and that's a must listen. You have to go back and listen to that. But I'm just looking at my notes, and the other two big albums of that year were Offspring Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Great album.
I didn't hate it, man. I didn't hate it. I was
Yeah,
really
me
into it.
neither.
I remember driving out to go play laser tag, listening to Offspring Smash to pump me up.
So wait, I want to do just a quick diversion here about Offspring.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion with some friends before. So that first album is pretty solid and
I love it.
still holds up pretty well. But then somewhere along the way, they kind of like started writing like joke songs or something. You know, like
Fly for a White Guy song.
Pretty Fly for a White Guy.
What's so jokey about that?
But like, it wasn't just that song. I think like maybe that was the one that started it.
I think
They
so.
had kind of a hit with that one, and then there was like sort of, okay, now all our singles just have to be sort of like funny, silly songs or something. And
No, it's true. It's true.
That's how I feel about Weezer.
yeah, I could see that a little bit with them.
Isn't he
Yeah,
an
like-
astrophysicist though? Isn't the guy from Offspring an astrophysicist?
I don't
I
know.
thought you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Very
He's
smart.
something like-
He's very smart.
definitely.
I think Smash. I remember it came out, and my sister, my older sister Kristen, she was working at Splish Splash out in Riverhead.
Oh, nice.
That's our
He was
safe
one of
word.
the-
Is that our safe word?
Split splash.
It was
I thought it was
Swam.
Swim,
It was swam.
It was
Close
a
though.
water park on Long Island, and she was one of the first lifeguards for opening season. But she would take us there, and then like her and a boyfriend would drive us back. But he loved that album. That's all he would ever listen to in his car. And I was like, this is really great. And like the artwork was that skeleton,
Yeah.
the rib cage.
Smash was good, man. Is your sister my age?
She graduated in '95. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Cool. Yeah. So Smash was the big one, and the other two big ones were Ill Communication was huge. I remember Green Day Dookie came out, and that was pretty
Yep.
huge. But the other one was the Bad Boys soundtrack. Everybody was listening to Shy Guy. Oh, no, mercy, 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 da, 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 sexy, sexy, sexy. Nobody? Anybody? Shy Guy?
Keep going.
I don't
It'll
know.
come.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
I know. But yeah, that's music was pretty insignificant in my senior year of high school, and it really didn't influence me in any way. And I didn't make any efforts to really get into music any more than I was, which is crazy because in the years before that, I was huge into it. And in 1995, through the rest of my life, music has become such an integral part of my entire life and everything I do. But in that 1 year, no, they're really. But I think John nailed it. There just wasn't really anything going on. And this is another interesting point that I want to mention. In Fort Mill, I went to high school in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and this was so 1995. So we didn't have the internet. But also in Fort Mill, South Carolina, we did not have MTV. For whatever reason, like you could drive to Rock Hill and they would have it. You can go to Charlotte and they would have it. But in Fort Mill, South Carolina,
Even if you had a cable package that was supposed to.
you can't get it. No, you can't get it. I think it was for religious purposes because we all had cable packages, but nobody had MTV. And I remember every now and then I used to work at Food Lion, the grocery store. I used to bag groceries, but it was like an episode of Saved by the Bell because all the cool kids worked at Food Lion, and every now and then somebody would come in with a bootleg Beavis and Butthead VHS, and we would go back in the break room and watch Beavis and Butthead because we didn't know what it was. We didn't have MTV, and I think Beavis and Butthead came out like in 91, 92, and this was 95. We just heard about it, but we had no way of in 95 with no internet and no MTV of accessing it. So I think that may have also led to me not knowing what cool music was in 1995. So I had no outlet. I would just go with like a buddy would come up to me and say, hey, you have to listen to Bone Thugs and Harmony, and then I would go buy Bone Thugs and Harmony, and that was it. But it's such an interesting topic because like love music, nothing, love music, and we just landed on the one topic on a music podcast where I didn't really get into music the 1 year of my life. So that's it for me.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
All right, Greg. Are you
I'll
ready
go.
to take
Yeah.
us on a journey?
So I graduated high school in 1999. Last one of the family, which was cool. I was working at McDonald's with
I've
some
heard
of
that.
my lifelong friends that we also went to the same high school. So we were obviously the popular, cool kids.
Obviously.
Now, if you could picture this, I brought some visuals for this. I was driving a 1990 Plymouth Acclaim with a red hood.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see it.
No,
but
I
also-
can't see it.
Wow, I love it.
Also across the windshield it says "Fear this" from the
No, no. Does it really? Did you put that on there on purpose?
Wow.
from that No Fear clothing line.
I know. Did you put that on there on purpose or did you buy it like that? I really need to know the answer to this.
Me too.
I went to Aid Auto Store to buy it. And then it was also a banner year.
Wait. Well, just one more question. Are we fearing you? Are we fearing the car or the
I think it's pretty
combination
much
of
the
both?
car because the car is pretty scary looking.
It is. It's a little much.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
that's
reason
not
behind the reason behind the red hood is because I rear-ended my friend Chris during lunch in high school.
And then you got in a car wreck? Sorry. You can edit that out.
Yeah.
And the mechanic couldn't find a burgundy dark brown hood to match, so he just gave me a red one like there was no big deal. And he made me pay for it.
That will be $700.
It was about that, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
That's what I was cruising around listening to all these tunes in.
All right.
With
That's
my,
good context.
And the other good thing is too, if I ever got lost, there was no internet, so I would always just pull up my Suffolk County.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys had these,
love
No.
you kept all this.
but if you didn't have this in your back seat, you didn't know where you were going. It was crucial
Yeah. You gotta have maps in your car.
in your.
You really did. Like,
It was so that's what I was dealing with. And
I want more visuals.
I have a picture of the back of the car. It was a banner year for the New York Knicks. They were in the finals that year against the San Antonio Spurs. So you could see, I put the jerseys on my driver's seats, and I put "Go New York, go" on the back window.
wow, you were a dedicated fan.
I was. It was. Then they lost, and I had to erase it all. But that's
That must have been tough, just sitting there erasing it.
these pictures are also dated June 25th, 1999.
Nice. So shortly after you graduated, then.
I think that was probably like the week of, because my high school, Sachem High School, we finished up like last week of June, typically right before the 4th, with all the testing and all that crap.
Right.
But back to music. So it was either like myself, Eric, Brendan, Chris, whoever else we worked with. Eric was the pretty big influence on most of these bands. Brendan was too, because I had that weird thing where like the years preceding my senior year, I wasn't really into music. It was more like the wrestling, watching WWF, watching WCW, and just like working and going to school. So Eric and Brendan were the bigger influences for me. And Eric was a huge Atari's fan.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Blue
nice.
Skies and Broken Hearts came out that year, I believe. M&M's came out, and that was just like a game changer. The Slim Shady LP.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't remember what time of the year that came out. I just remember having that CD in my car and just like feeling kind of dirty because I mean, there was nothing like it.
No, that was a game changer. I was a senior in college when that came out, and I remember just going. We didn't understand what it was. We couldn't wrap our heads around who is this guy? What is he saying? We're like, I remember I was at volleyball practice, and some guy was like, "Have you seen that video by Zim Zamy?" And we're like, "Yeah." Like we didn't know what it was, but we knew it was awesome. So yeah, totally.
Then there was Lit had A Place in the Sun,
I love Lit.
which was another one that was in some constant rotation. We mentioned this last week. Stained, their album, their
It's been a while, man.
album Dysfunction. Linkin Park Hybrid Theory came out that year. Enema of the State came out that year.
Oh,
Battle of Los Angeles, Rage was
so good.
so good.
You had a great time. You had a great time for music your senior year.
We had the Beastie Boys. Hello Nasty came out the summer before my senior year. So I listened to that a lot senior year. Jay-Z's Volume 3 came out.
Oh, wow.
Blur 13 came out. Ja Rule, Veni Vedi Veci. That was something that was always in Eric's car. Hello Nasty. What's that?
Was that the one where he had the single with Jennifer Lopez?
Either where he's like,
wait, no, you're thinking of Cookie Monster.
I think that was Jennifer Lopez when it had to be.
I'm Real, was that with John
I'm Real?
Lopez?
Yeah. That's Nicole would know that. My sister would be all over that. She loved all that hip hop.
I liked that song.
It was hard. There was a lot of hip hop happening too back then. I just never dove into that. Slipknots came out. They're self-titled that summer, I believe, and that was like something no one's ever really heard before. And like I mentioned earlier before we recorded, Will Smith's Millennium came out.
Of course.
But you did not celebrate the Millennium.
No, I didn't.
How?
I don't have many regrets about that either, honestly.
The W2K.
The W2K. Yeah, it was just a great time for music. It was right on the cusp. It was right on the cusp of all the new metal stuff coming out, which some of it got really weird that I didn't like Power Man 5000 and
Mudvayne.
I kind of like Mudvayne. You didn't like Mudvayne?
Nope.
I kind of like Mudvayne. All right.
And that's when we started. So 98 so my senior year was 98, 99 was when I went to my first actual concert ever, and I was Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden. I went with Eric, and then I think that winter is when I saw Everclear, Soul Coughing, and Black Eyed Peas at Roseline Ballroom, which was super fun. And that was really it. It was a banner year for music, I think.
It sounds like it was. Billy Joel sounds like an odd first concert for a senior in high school.
Not if you live on Long Island.
Oh, okay. It's more of an event. Is it more of like Okay.
Yeah, like Long Island was pretty much everybody I knew had Billy Joel's Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2.
Absolutely.
Just
like literally. Like it's like not even an exaggeration.
Yeah.
It was just like you were issued it at birth. So yeah, like anybody would go see Billy Joel if they had the chance, I feel like.
And he wouldn't tour a whole lot back then, so it wasn't like he was playing now where he does once a month at the Garden. It was once every 2 years or something. Yeah. He would do a week.
He was busy driving his car into trees and stuff.
That takes a lot of time.
Being drunk. Allegedly under the influence. But yeah.
Allegedly.
That was my senior year. I can't remember much else that really stuck out. There was no one band that I was I got to keep listening to Stained. Yeah. It was just an array of music because there was really no internet back then, so it was hard to even get music. We had CD burners, so if somebody bought a CD, you'd have this big chunky box next to your computer where you would make these copies, but it would take 6 hours.
Yeah. Well, and then you could start making a mix CD for people instead of a mix tape, which was a huge advance in technology.
Oh man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also for prom asking out. A huge advance in prom asking out as well.
I don't remember what I did for prom, asking out. I think I asked one girl, she said yes, and then another girl I wanted to ask was like, oh, I thought he was going to ask me. So I asked her. She said yes. And then I canceled on the other one. Got a lot of shit for that.
Yeah, I bet.
It was weird times, man.
Wait, that wasn't when you called the girl up to play her
Richard Marx?
That journey.
Richard Marx?
No, that was like 6th grade.
Oh,
Oh, jeez. That's awesome.
yeah.
I was just a youngster looking for love back then.
Wait, I gotta ask, Greg, your Cheap John's, that is Long Island, right?
That's another thing. So we would be cruising around and we'd go to Cheap John's for like candy bars or
Nice.
discount school supplies.
Love this.
What is Cheap John's?
That's John. That's right there. See, it's cheap.
Sounds like a store for poor people.
Dude, yeah.
It's a
John
store
looks
for Long
like
Island
scary.
people.
John,
Yeah,
poor
it's a store
people?
for poor people.
Wouldn't they have like a stereo, anything from like a candy bar to a stereo there or something?
Yeah, it was the most bizarre store.
John,
It would be like a Dollar General or like a
yep.
whatever those other dollar stores are like around town now.
Mhm.
But it was I think I don't know, something happened and then he had to like shut down the stores, or I don't know. It was after I left.
when you started to say that sentence, when you said from a candy bar to a stair, I thought you were going to say to a stair. This is 100% true. I thought you were going to say from a candy bar to a sterile knife. Like if you were really poor and you didn't have medical insurance
Oh
and
my
you
God.
needed to do
To
surgery.
remove bullets? Like, what are you
No,
doing?
no, kidneys. Yeah.
Sterile knife.
That's what I
Not
thought
that
you were going
Action heroes and kids.
to Oh man, you guys, I wish I grew up on Long Island with you two. I think us three would have been good friends.
We would have been all right.
Despite our age difference, I think we all
Yeah,
would have been.
Yeah, I think you would have enjoyed it, Mike. I think you would have had fun there with us.
Absolutely.
But then like once the early 2000s hit, that's when it was just like music just went everywhere. So it was just a whole nother world. Then I moved here in 2004.
John, I was introduced to Taking Back Sunday by our very own Greg G-Man Urquhart in
What year
2005.
was it? Yeah,
Yeah, 2005.
I left him alone in my house.
What was
And
that?
he went through. I
Different
left
times.
you alone in my house.
Yeah, that's 1,000,000% correct. I can't believe
Because you were
remember
living
that.
in Hollywood at that time.
Yeah. This is way back when people weren't afraid to let other people get on their computer. And I remember I spent the whole day on your laptop. I never even once looked at your browsing history. That's how good of a friend I am.
Well,
But,
you got to clear the browser history. So where you had that heart attack,
That's right.
you cleared your browsing history before you went to the hospital.
That's my favorite story in the world. I'll tell that in great detail at some point. But John, when did Taking
Joe,
Back
what time?
Sunday?
Sorry.
I was just gonna ask John. Yeah, when did Taking Back Sunday really blow? When was the height of your powers?
Well, the band started taking off in 2002. Kind of got the first bit of like mainstream success in 2003, and then I left the band and it continued. I think like Louder Now in 2006 was sort of like the as far as like mainstream pop culture awareness, that was probably like the peak.
Oh, gotcha.
I bet if you asked Adam that, he would have just said it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, he would. He's a lot more poetic about it all.
What year did you graduate high school, Joe?
I graduated in 2005.
Oof.
So I'm a little younger than everyone else,
A
but
little
Easy.
baby face.
yeah,
You're a baby face.
I do have a baby face.
I make the bank billions and they don't. Oh my gosh, look at
Oh,
that guy.
you brought your picture.
Yep.
Holy shit.
And why did they have us
Whoa.
include our home address? I don't know why.
What?
Wait, really? Wait, go
Yeah,
back.
my
What was
home
it?
address is on my senior year picture, and so is my friend Levy Camacho next to me.
Oh,
His home address is there, and we all did that. And why? Why was this the case? I don't
that's
know.
crazy.
Joe, I can't read your quote.
Holy-
Can you read your senior quote there?
Oh, I'll never forget. summer of junior year, going to shows with my friends. And then I name my friend Sean Hartley, Mundo. I named him. This is not written very well. And the drafting crew. So I went to school for drafting and design. And I spent a lot of time playing Unreal Tournament, listening to bands, not doing my work, downloading music at school. Pretty much it was just a free-for-all. You had computers, you had the internet, and there was no control from the school. So we would download music, download movies while we were in school, play on a server and shoot each other in like Unreal Tournament or like Doom, I guess, similar to that. It's just like a newer version of that kind of game, like first person shooters. And I was just pretty nerdy, but just obsessed with finding new music and playing video games at the same time. But yeah, that was I went to a vocational school. So it was about 12 towns that went to one high school. So
Jesus.
Yeah. So I went from my hometown of Saugus, Massachusetts, which is all I kind of knew. And then to kind of start why, like the record that I picked for most important for high school, picked on a lot in middle school. I was just a quiet kid. I'm a middle child. So I had an older brother, Kevin, and a younger brother, Kyle. So I was very quiet as a middle child, going into a school with all these like crazy loud kids. There's mostly Italian and Irish kids in my middle school. I didn't stand a chance. Did not stand a chance. So I got bullied pretty bad. And then I was really into nu metal. And then I was really into System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine. And then high school comes along. Freshman year of high school, nervous as hell, going to now from getting picked on to then going to a school, kind of not to escape my town, but in the background, it was kind of like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to leave my crazy ass town and go to school with 11 others. What can go wrong? And it ended up being great for the most part. I think that middle school is the lowest part, probably the part of my life growing up. And then a lot of stuff going on. Home stuff and parents' divorce and all this other stuff. And then high school came along and I was kind of starting to recover from having a really bad time, middle school. And then freshman year of high school, 9/11 happens. And we all got sent home and it was like devastating because this is like, just coming into school. So my high school experience is already like nothing's great happening still. And now it's like the world instead of just me. And I remember just taking the bus, having my Discman. I had a Sony Discman, silver Sony Discman, and I had Thursday Full Collapse, which was kind of that was the album, one of the albums that got me out of nu metal and into like just cooler, in my opinion, cooler music, like more poetic, more thought out music than a lot of the bands that I listened to before, which was more just angst, which was great. Just picture me. Okay. So putting my backpack on, pack my lunch. I walk down my street, I used to climb a fence through a neighbor's yard into another neighbor's yard, jump down into their driveway, keep walking, go up this giant hill, down a giant hill, up a giant hill, down a hill. And then I'm at the bus stop. And this is Massachusetts and it's fucking cold. It's cold. And it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just sitting at the bus stop, get on the bus, and all they're playing is Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne and Modest Mouse Float On. And when I was in high school, I fucking hated Modest Mouse. They're one of my favorite bands now, but I hated them because the radio destroyed that song. It just kept playing it every time, every morning.
I don't like
and luckily I had Thursday in my Discman. And so let me see. Discman, Modest Mouse. I wrote down some notes. I was also so this record is We're All the Time by Thursday is my favorite record from high school. It is the most important record for my high school because at this point in my life, I needed therapy. This album was the most therapeutic album I could find. Lyrically, a lot of the songs are built similar to the Beatles song Eleanor Rigby, where there's a person in a room and they're playing this instrument and this is going on and this person's outside and what are they waiting for? Who knows? There's just there's all these moving parts and characters. And I just became obsessed with this band for that reason. And then from there, I got more I was working at Target in the food av department, which if you don't know what that is,
Don't know what that is.
so
No.
before they bought up like Starbucks, before Starbucks and Target kind of like merged and there was Starbucks inside Targets, some Targets still have it, but it's basically like pretzels and popcorn and Slurpees.
What is
So I
it?
worked there and it wasn't busy. And I used to throw out these like barrels and barrels of food every day. And I was listening to this record, just getting pissed about wasting food. So I started telling my friends that we're just going to throw this food out. And they would come in at the end of my shift and I would give them food. So I would feel less bad for wasting it. And Target decided to film that for months, like 4 months, 3 or 4 months, and then drop the book on me.
Wow, that was a long game. That was a really long game.
Yeah. One of my bosses, this guy Joe, was obsessed with the JFK assassination. So I think he was building the case. And then he got really upset because he realized I was too young to arrest. So they couldn't arrest me. But I had to write my admission, like what I did and stuff. And they fired me. And that was devastating too. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I also had no girlfriend in high school. I was just hanging out with friends, playing music, playing video games in my own world. Parents divorced, had a brother addicted to drugs. There's like a lot of chaos, and then finding my outlet and clinging to it and holding on to it for dear life. And like I was also going to shows at the time and seeing local bands. And this is all before joining Transit. This was like right before that. So there's a lot of ingredients going into me wanting to write music and be a part of music. And this record was probably the most important one. But yeah, I used to take half days from high school. We used to leave, we'd go to lunch. We'd have swimming class and gym, and I was not going to swim in high school. I was like, fuck that. So we would leave school, walk through the woods. We used to park our cars at the high school next to ours, Wakefield High. And then we would we'd first go to Wendy's, even though we just had lunch, but we'd just have a double lunch, I guess. 7-Eleven and fill the cups all the way past the cup, like all the way past the lid, because you could. And then we'd go to Guitar Center, piss people off by playing the same riffs over and over. And then we go to my house, which was empty because my parents were both working, and then just have our like band practices. So that was my high school in a nutshell. I'm pretty much giving you everything. But yeah, this record got me through the worst stuff. And I just remember I would just listen to it. I eventually burnt and put Full Collapse, the record I loved, like the first Thursday record I heard, and then have it go into War All the Time and listen to it front to back, which I still think are two of their strongest records were those two. And yeah, every day I'd be listening to this band almost every day. I'd say it's the band I listened to the most in high school, just over and over and over. And it rekindled what I loved about the Beatles lyrically. And yeah, that's everything I got on that. So Thursdays War All the Time came out September 16th, 2003. And the creepiest thing about this record is that the song War All the Time is track 9 out of 11 tracks. And a lot of this record is after 9/11 I think because of the events of 9/11 inspired a lot of these songs, made this band more political. And there's a lot of themes with that, which is crazy. But yeah, beautiful record. Crazy time in my life, and definitely a time where music really saved me from a chaotic atmosphere that I felt I was in at the time.
That's awesome that you had that outlet and that you were able to go on to write your own music. I think that's very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, this record influenced me the most, I think, and it still does. I mean, I tried to listen to this record not too long ago, and I'm like, I just can't go back there. Like, you know what I mean?
I've never heard the whole album, but the song War All the Time is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah. I like this record because there's a lot of stuff you can't really predict, similar to Full Collapse. There's a lot of influences. I know one of their biggest influences was Hot Water Music. And when Transit played Warped Tour, we played the acoustic basement tent. We played twice. We'd play acoustic basement, and one year we played Ernie Ball stage, and one year we played a Tilly stage. And I just remember meeting Jeff from this band, playing every day with him, like our set and his set at the acoustic basement tent. And then I remember he the airport lost the guitar that he wrote this record on and his last record on, and him being so upset about it. And I just remember being so blown away, like, your record's why I'm here, and now you're here and I'm here, and I'm not gonna fanboy out like and ruin your day by over talking to you about your stuff. And I didn't. I kept it cool, but it was just really cool to be like, I'm here because I'm probably here because of your record, and now I'm spending a summer like playing music at the same thing you are, and it's just really cool that I had that kind of. It felt to me at that time felt like a really like full circle situation. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely appreciated it. I don't think I annoyed him at all. I think I played it cool, which was tough. But he even said he liked one of the songs that we performed, and it was I Think I Know You. That was the song that we were one of the songs we were playing that year. And he said he complimented me on the lyrics, and I just remember like, thanks, man. Thanks. You have no idea what I've been through.
Has there ever been a musician that you just absolutely nerded out to and felt bad about?
Chris Conley of Saves the Day, because that Stay What You Are was a really big record for me. It's definitely one of those records like this one that got me through, like kind of got me away from nu metal and got me more into like emo and Midwestern emo and indie bands and stuff like that and punk. And but yeah, I nerded out to him pretty bad. And he actually got me into Joseph Campbell, which if you Joseph Campbell, I think all you guys know who. Yeah, you guys all know. Yeah, so he got me into Joseph Campbell. We talked about Joseph Campbell a lot on tour, and then yeah, just being able to tour with Saves the Day was huge. Definitely a highlight for me. But yeah, I think I nerded out to him the most. But what's cool about being in a band is when you play with other bands that nerd out to your band, some people go overboard and kind of stress you out, and you're just like, yo, man, like, I'm so happy, but like, this is a lot to take in what you're telling me. So because of that, you're able to do that to the bands that you look up to and keep it cool and not annoy them or scare them, because they're all people. Everyone's just a person. So
I remember the time you were telling me about how Celine Dion met you, and she could not stop raving about how much she liked your discography.
Oh, dude, Amanda's one of the times I've yelled at my wife and really meant it. Like we were like, I was like, you really are being ridiculous right now. I don't know what I said, but I was pissed. It was like 7. It's like 7 a.m, Massachusetts, super cold, probably middle of February. I'm taking a shower, and when you're in a place that cold, it doesn't matter how hot the shower is, because you know the minute you turn it off, you're gonna be absolutely freezing because all the winter air just blows through the walls. And I'm taking a shower anyway. It's super early in the morning. I got to work. I'm pissed. Just not happy to be awake at that time. And she just comes in trying to be funny, just belting Celine Dion, hitting every note as flat as possible. My heart will go on, like everything. And I just feel like, stop, like, shut up, like being so obsessed. So every time someone brings up Celine Dion, that's what I think of.
Oh man. So of all the pulls I could have went with, that was
the worst. It's like you were there.
Yeah.
Next time I'm in the same house as you in the shower, I'm gonna.
Yeah. Next time I'm in the same shower as you. I'll be
Won't be long.
Yeah.
Won't be long now.
Yeah. So at 5:30. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I gotta say too, like, both Jeff Rickley and Chris are probably two of the best people you could meet and talk to after looking up to them. You know, like, they are just, I think, like, both such like generous and like gracious people, which doesn't always happen when, you know, with artists and musicians, you know, like, and some people are great at what they do, and they're even good people, but they're not great at dealing with people who like their music or people that are fans in any way. And like, that's awesome though, because like both of those guys are so good at that, and like kind of knowing how to talk to people that and appreciate it and accept the appreciation. Like, so that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is, man. That is. I've always thought that if I were to ever do anything successful, I would really go out of my way to just be a cool guy.
Yeah.
No, they're nerds. They're cool nerds. Like that's what you need to meet. I think, at least for me, you know what I mean. The first I think I've said this before. I don't know if it was on. I don't think it was on our show, but it was on a podcast recently that I did, and I was like, yeah, I thought people in bands were all kind of rude when I was like coming from just seeing local bands, because the first time I ever like went up to a band after they played and like wanted to talk to them, they were just like, get away from me. It was very much like, it was not fun. I was like, why did I do that? Yeah. And then my friends and I would go to hardcore shows, like more heavy punk influenced bands. And I saw Have Heart. I went to their second show. It was in Taunton, Massachusetts. And I talked to the singer, Pat Flynn, and he was like the nicest dude. I didn't have enough money to buy their 7-inch. And he was just like, just have it. I don't care. Like, here you go. And I just remember being like, what is this? I thought everyone was supposed to be awful to, you know what I mean? Like, get away from me. And that blew my mind. So that was the first person in a band that was cool to me, that changed my perspective of like interacting from a fan to a band level, was definitely Have Heart from Boston.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, some people are cool. Some people are really cool.
Yeah. Man, I feel like we all really like took a trip down a significant portion of our lives there, you know?
Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. I had a really good time going back and just looking into my senior year as a whole, and exploring what music I was into. So that was great. We should do this topic again. I mean, not this.
The one thing from my senior year I remember is that there was I don't know if John remember this. There was a guy that was like beaten on the New York City subway. Abdul Louima, I think it was. Did that ring a bell?
Louima, yeah, I think was the police. I think.
Or yes, the police
beat him in custody. Like after they had him, like they beat the shit out of him.
But there was a benefit concert that was going to be put on. I think me and Brendan and Eric went to American Video to get tickets to the show, and it was going to be Rage Against the Machine and the Beastie Boys at like Roseland Ballroom or Irving Plaza. And I got the last minute, they canceled it because there was too much of a protest about it.
Oh, really?
Or something like that. Brendan will probably hear this and he'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Leave a comment.
But we had the tickets, and I was like, this is going to be a fucking ridiculous show. And I think there was another band on there. I just can't remember who, but I do remember in 2000 as well, Rage and Beastie were supposed to tour together, and they never did.
Oh,
man, that would have been a hell of a thing.
Yeah,
amazing.
But that was back in the day where you had to go. I think we cut out of school to go to this, because video stores is where you would get tickets from. Like Ticketmaster, they had like a little machine.
Or what was it? Tower Records.
Tower Records.
Yep, I got them. Yep. Strawberries.
I don't think there was a Tower Records in Suffolk County. There might have been one, but it was way too far.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you didn't have a Tower Records. That was one of the advantages of living in Nassau County.
Yeah.
Plenty of Tower Records.
But the disadvantage is you didn't get to see this guy driving around.
I know.
No.
Man, I wish I had. That was a big thing of that senior year. Seeing your car too. I remember my friend who I talked about who got me into Phish. He had a Trans Am.
Oh wow.
He had got it. He bought it himself, like saved up his money and like got the sound system in it, kind of like you were talking about, Mike. I think he actually had the CD player and the thing. So we would just drive around in his Trans Am, smoking cigarettes and listening to music. And honestly, that was the coolest I've ever felt in my life. I don't think I'm ever going to feel any cooler than that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.